Welcome to another episode of Unscripted with Marilyn Morales. Today's guest is someone that I met approximately almost a year ago in July. A lot of you have heard me talk about the first time that I went onto a stage. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I met a lot of amazing people during that particular journey. And my next guest, David Chametzky, is one of them. He impressed me so much that we became friends, and we've been friends ever since, walking in the same spaces and learning from one another. Let me tell you a little bit about David. David Chametzky, a deep message expert, is an author, speaker, podcast host, and producer. He assists others in overcoming challenges. A true pathfinder, has a mission to uplift lives in every way. David empowers individuals day by day. Through his content and teachings, he brings light, guiding others to overcome obstacles, shining bright. Let's welcome David to the show. Good morning, David.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for coming on my show today. We've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah, I'm so honored to be part of your show. I mean, I've watched so many of the episodes, and I'm like, I want to be on the show. Man, you're knocking it out of the park. I'm so proud of you.
Listen, and what's the first thing that bonded us together? Where are you from?
Yeah, well, that's it, Brooklyn, man.
Brooklyn.
You're from Brooklyn. Obviously you can hear my voice, so I definitely come from a New York accent, but find that you're from Brooklyn, and we actually knew, the exact area where we talked about streets, and I was like, yeah, I know, I play ball there, and God brings us together for many different reasons, and I'm so honored to be part of in your world and to be connected with you.
Thank you. And I feel the very same way about you. I remember listening to you speak when you went up there, and I was like, wait a minute, I know that accent. And we met in Philadelphia, right?
So we met in Philadelphia. Yes.
We didn't even meet
Southern Brooklyn. Yeah, that's what I call it.
Exactly. And I'm like, is that? I was like, is that New York or is that Philly? Because sometimes they can sound similar, right? So I was like, nope, that's a New Yorker. So I immediately knew I had to meet you, right? I had somebody like me out there, and it's sometimes rare to find in New Jersey, right? To find another New Yorker from where I'm from right now.
Yep, yeah.
So tell me something. Now that we met, let's talk a little bit about the Ultimate Speaker competition, and what made you go to that. I never asked you that. What made you go there, and how did that come to happen for you?
Yeah, so I knew Christoph for a while, and I knew other people who had been part of the Ultimate Speaker competition. And I was like, I always wanted things on the East Coast. A lot of the speaking pieces that I noticed were really all on the West Coast, and I really couldn't travel that much because taking care of my daughter and things like that. And I said, anytime there's something on the East Coast, I'm going to try to hit it. And that's really how I met you. And then, now there's a lot of stuff on the East Coast. I mean, the East Coast is sort of exploding a little bit, with the BLN, BOM, the AMA, Connected Leaders, or so, it's all coming up. And that's exactly what I've said. And that was my conversation with all of those leaders, that I was looking for somebody locally. Like there's so much stuff, even though we're all tough New Yorkers, tough Northeasterners, we still need to figure out the way to get through the challenges that we might be facing. And that was why I decided to do the Ultimate Speaker competition, and to kind of test myself. Not only to, I've been on stages, but I thought it was a real competition, and it's always good. Sort of.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, but no, it was, but it's always good to sharpen. And all the people that I met to help me level up over the past year really have been part of that event. I mean, they were there. They were either there to support their people, like Emilio, who came to support you, and then, Jesse, and there were so many people who I met from that event that it really has exploded. And I think that's really why we need to go to events like that, where you don't know what's going to happen, and you meet people. It's all about meeting the right people.
It's all about connections, right? Yeah. So and to think that I had met, Christoph is great. I had never met him. I had just met him.
I had met him for years. We were talking. We had never met. We physically met a couple of months earlier, but at that point we already knew each other. We had been speaking for a year. I think he's a wonderful guy. I think the event is fun. It's and that's part of it is also just entertainment. So whatever
Right.
the competition is, but it's entertainment, and you get to meet some really amazing people.
Yeah, listen, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I say that all the time. I had no idea. I had COVID at the time and was locked in my room looking for things to do. Right. And sometimes when you're like that, I was writing my book, my first book, right, and trying to figure that out. And I had met Jesse Cruz through Jose Escobar, through the Connected Leaders
Yep.
Academy, who said, "This guy sounds just like you. This is somebody you want to connect with." Because when you write a book, you have to learn how to speak, right? You have to be able to get on in front of an audience,
Mhm.
which is something I was not comfortable with. I'm a nurse, so I'm like, I deal with people one on one. I don't deal with people in crowds like that. Even though I had done education with my nurses, so my audience was people like me always, right? Never outside of that. So that was the first time I had done something like that, and I don't regret it because absolutely met so many people, and the people that came out to support me were able to make connections with people like you and other people, and it just blew up from there. So you just never know. You make one decision, and the ripple effect of those decisions, you never know where it's going to take you,
and,
right?
and that's exactly it. And that's why we step out. Everybody goes, stepping out of your box, stepping out of your comfort zone. You need to do that. No matter what you want to do, you want to continue to grow. You can't grow in your box. I mean, think about flowers. When we put the flowers in the box, in the pot, it will not grow, and it'll eventually start dying in the same pot if you don't keep expanding it and putting it in new soil and having it learn and taking care of it.
Right. And listen, and through that, my second book that just came out, Dare to Care, was
Mhm.
with Michelle,
Well, with Michelle, yeah,
Christophe's
Michelle's
wife.
awesome. Yeah, Michelle's
Yeah.
awesome also. I mean, they're really great people. I mean, anybody in the audience who doesn't know Christophe or Michelle, reach out to them. They're really great people, heart centered, faith centered. They're really great people to know.
Right. Amen. Amen. So, David, tell us more about you. I read a little bit of your bio, but tell my audience a little bit more about you, what you do.
Yeah, so what I do is a lot of things at this point. I've been mentoring people through challenges and traumas and things like that for the past almost 8 years. And it's really hard to get people to talk about their deepest traumas, the things that they feel are in their way. And most people don't always know what's in their way. And that's also a challenge. You think about something that might have gone on in the past. You're like, yeah, I'm past it. It's okay. But it sometimes lives in our body, in either pain or how we act or how we react. And there's ways to overcome that. And lately, because I've now an author of several books. I've been in compilation books as well as my own book, and I have some other books coming out this year.
Yeah,
Being a
yeah.
podcast host, so I wanted to be a speaker. I wanted to tell my message, and a part of my message is also how to overcome and make sure you're doing the right things. And we all
Right.
make mistakes. So one of the stories that I talk about is really that I tried to kill myself, even though I knew how to help people in the same situation. I didn't want the help. I wasn't using my resources. So I talked to everybody about using your resources. And that's really what it is. It's knowing what your resources are, but doing it. And it's not only about talking to a friend, to reaching out. That's one thing that could be a resource, but you have to want it. One of the biggest stories I tell is right after my attempt obviously didn't work, but somebody asked me, "Do you love yourself?" And it
Mm,
knocked me to my knees. I had to think about it, and the more I thought about it, obviously the answer at that time was no. But I didn't ever think about that you can love yourself. Like you say, I love myself, but really deep down, you feel that you loved yourself. And at that time, I didn't. And now I
mm,
can say I do. I don't like everything I do. I make mistakes. I'm human, but at the end of the day, it's about that. So I help people move through that, understand that. And what I've done is because now that I've been an author and gone through the writing process for an individual book, writing a chapter in a compilation book is much different than writing a whole book for yourself, as you
right.
know, right?
Absolutely.
Writing a chapter
Absolutely.
is I don't want to say easy because it's still overcoming some things, but is it easier than that whole book? And that whole book, putting your name on that cover. I mean, like here's my first book. I'll put it closer to.
We can't see it.
Yeah, yeah. Can't see it because but it's when your heart says it's your time to soar, And
we'll include that for the viewers. We'll include the cover of his book in the comments when this gets posted so that you guys can see it.
yeah, so when I put out the first book, when I touched that book, it felt differently than any other book that I've written, any of the compilations that I've been part of. And I've been part of, #1 Amazon bestsellers, international bestsellers. So seeing
Different feel,
oh
absolutely.
my
And
God.
I have to say that because I wrote my book about my two biggest experiences, right? My 9/11 story, my loss of my daughter, and not everything, right? I just touched the surface with that book. But when I first saw my book in print, which I saw at the book launch, I cried. It
So did
was
I.
such an emotional experience.
The first time I saw you get the email, showing you the file, and I'm like, oh my God. For me, it was real
Yeah.
when I saw the copyright label. But
Yes.
then that Friday night when I was with J.R. Reed, J.R.
Spears.
Spears, yeah, J.R. Reed is a golf, so I'd like to be with him. But
You just put it out there. You're gonna meet him.
yeah, no problem. That's the type of people I've worked with. I've worked
Yes,
with elite athletes to overcome. So it's not only about traumas, it's all about our mind, because really the biggest challenge we have right between those ears
that's
is
right.
that, I always say the monsters under your bed are not as scary as the monsters in your head.
That's
And it
right.
really is, what we think, how we think about things. So again, when I said I didn't love myself, that was how I felt about myself. So if I didn't love myself, everything I was doing was not fully done. Even though I thought I was pulling it all in, I wasn't putting it all in. And now I could say that differently. I am putting it all in, and that's where really in the next few weeks I have again these books. So I already had that book in December. The first time I touched it, it was my book, my name, and chills. I still get chills when I get down it because in the back of the book, my mom had passed in the middle of while I was writing this, the finishing touches,
Wow. Okay.
and so I dedicated a story to my mom and a picture. All the photography in the book is my own photography, so it was really a very personal book. That
Share the name again.
it's a when your heart says it's your time to soar, and
Okay.
one of the it's your time to soar is one of the things I enjoy talking about, and it's actually part of the speech that we taught. I did at the ultimate
Ultimate speaker
speaker
competition.
competition
So
because
before we get into that, before we get into that
sure.
story, right? Let me touch on healing. When you talk about healing and helping others to heal, I always say that I'm on a healing journey. I never say that I'm healed completely because with someone who suffered from PTSD, and I'm sure you have too, for different reasons, right? Things can trigger you, right? So you can feel like you're in a good place, but something will trigger you and can catapult you back into those feelings that you felt before, right? So you have to have the tools in your toolbox in order to deal with that what's happening to you now, right? Do you feel the
100%.
same way? So not healed, but you're in a healing journey
What
always?
100%. And so I'll tell you a story, a couple of stories. So the first story is that's what I do. So that was really how I started my mentoring practice. And I call it mentoring versus coaching. I see mentoring as, look, I've been there. I might not have been your story. I wasn't at 9/11, but
Right.
I've helped survivors of 9/11 get past the events of that. But I've been in events that also have triggered me differently. And because of that, I know how it's sort of that what I always talk about, that rubbing your hands, that reset button. It
Talk
goes
about that. Talk
it,
about that.
it goes a little deeper than that. So I will. So the rubbing your hands, so everybody who might not have heard me yet, is if you rub your hands, you'll always be able to reset yourself and calm yourself down, which is really important because in any circumstance, that's all you need to do. Nobody will notice. They'll just see you rubbing your hands. It's fine. It's a circular
Circular
motion. I'm
like
just gonna move
this.
my hands so you can see it. Yeah, just
Yeah.
nice and slow. It doesn't have to be fast. It's gonna create delta waves in your brain, which are the same brain waves we use when we go to sleep. And once that does, it's gonna calm you down. So it will help you go to sleep if you try
I
to
was
do.
going to ask you that.
Yeah, sure, you
Is
can
that
do
going to
that.
help me? So all of us in our 50s going through menopause and we're having trouble sleeping, instead of grabbing that melatonin, it's
Yeah,
just
no,
going to help us.
and it's a natural way. You just gotta let yourself breathe, watch yourself breathe, and it all works. I've put people. I've been in the same. Once I learned this technique, I was in a state. I was in a triggered state, and I needed to calm myself down. So it really helps you down. It's watching your breath. Those are some techniques. And that's the thing is when I tried to hurt myself, I wasn't using the techniques. I, I was
Did you
helping
know
other.
about them? Did you
Excuse
know
me.
about those
I
techniques?
knew about them. Yeah, I knew about them, and I was helping people through traumas that they shared with me afterwards. And the great thing about this technique is you don't have to tell me anything as long as you know what's going on. I don't need to hear your story. In some ways, I don't care what your story is because
Right.
it's personal to you. Something that
Yeah.
might have triggered you might not have triggered me, and that's the important part, and that's why through the years of experience and really just by doing it and living it, once you hit your 50s, you've had some life experiences.
Oh, heck yeah.
One, yeah,
Even
one of
before that. Listen, there's children that are there that have lived
oh
bigger
yeah,
lives
oh
than an
my God,
adult.
there are right, there are children who have lived more than I've lived, and I don't want to experience that. I want to assist them to live a better life because I'll tell you. So
That's
one
right.
of the stories that there's two stories. So during COVID, I was by myself for a long time, and I'm reading some stories, which is how sort of my book came about. One of the stories was about a girlfriend that I had, who I was going to marry. She got hit by a drunk driver and she was killed. But I still had the poems. I'm reading the poems. I'm just like going through nights, and I burst out crying. This is like 30 years ago, right? I was in my 20s when
Wow.
she was killed, and I'm like, how the hell? Where did that come from? It didn't like. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm sad, and I came out with like snotty, running down the crying, uh, just reading what I wrote to her, and I'm like, whoa. So I used to I used to be in therapy, so I reached out to my therapist, who I'm friends with, and I go,
Right.
hey, Bill, what happened there? Can you just like, help me explain it? Then I can heal myself because I know how to do it, and I'm in a better place to want to heal myself. And so we had some talks. We had one session, and it was we have survivor guilt. So it's one of those things that we have that are so powerful. One of those things that we might say, oh, my girlfriend passed away 30 years ago. I didn't do anything. I wasn't driving. She was walking on the street, but I told her to go to the party that she went to, and
Oh,
that was besides I was about to ask her to marry me. So it was it wasn't just a girlfriend. It was somebody who I had hoped that I wanted to have the rest of
a
my life with.
future. Yeah, you were gonna have a
And
future with her.
so it was a big event, and because it also comes, most traumas will come because it's a shock. It's something that you didn't expect. Not that
That's right.
you know death is really funny. If it happens really suddenly, we can be traumatized by it, and we
Oh
are
yeah.
traumatized by it. Versus, oh, we're prepared for it. It still becomes
There's no
pain,
preparation.
right.
There's no preparation
It
for
becomes a painful event, but you can manage it differently, and if you
absolutely.
choose. And again, all the things about it we want to overcome is our choices. So it's not easy to let go. One time when I was learning how to be a medium, I said, "So how do you do it?" And they say you have to surrender. And I go, "What? How do you surrender?" You just surrender. And I didn't understand it then. I do understand it now. It's still not easy, and I don't always surrender. But
Wait a
it's
minute. Wait a minute. We got to stop here. We're making a
okay.
left turn. So you were learning to become a medium,
Yeah,
like to connect with those on the
yeah.
other side.
I,
Okay.
I I did, and it scared the hell out of me. So we all have that ability, and,
Right.
and and we all have that ability if you really. And that's why I still tune into the energies, but I don't want to read because I'll share the story. I was reading somebody, and I closed my eyes. I'm trying to visualize it as I was learning, and I opened my eyes, and this person was crying, was hysterical crying because I read somebody who was very close to him. I gave him specific details about being on the first base side at Yankee Stadium with this person who crossed over. I could have never figured that out. And I told
Right.
him I was one section over where he and his partner had box seats, had season tickets. And he goes, she's speaking to me now. Thank you. And I said, I'm getting chills now. And I felt
Wow.
it scared me. And unfortunately, we don't always hear good things. I don't want that type of pressure. I don't want to.
A lot
I
of
want
responsibility with that, right?
yeah, I know I could do it, and there's times that I've had it happen to me where I've put myself in that mindset and people have spoken to me. I can't do it all the time. I don't do it all the time. But it's part of that surrender, because I said to the universe, I would like my gifts and thank you for allowing me to experience that. But it's not something I always want to do. It's very personal. Because you don't know how the person takes it. You know, if it's somebody that you want to speak to, you want a message, and I can't give you the exact message, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of responsibility. Now, did you always know that you had this intuitiveness about you, where you were a child
Nah,
and receiving messages?
I was stubborn. I've been that's why it's 8 years ago or 9 years ago, before all this started. If you would have told me I'd be talking like this, or even with the intuitive stuff, or all this energy use, and I would
Yeah,
have
yeah,
told you
yeah.
you are whacked. You know, again, I come from Brooklyn, right? You know,
That's right. That's
I mean,
right.
all my friends are, come on, Mary, come on, stop doing that. And you
Mm,
know, what you looking to be a priest? You come on. I'm like,
mm.
no, I'm just trying to be a healthier person. I'm trying to
Relax,
be,
right?
yeah, I'm trying to put out the best energy possible. I know
Right.
I've made mistakes in my life, and I try to fix whatever mistakes I have. And I know I'm not going to be perfect. Perfection is an illusion. And
Absolutely.
you
I
know,
agree.
there's so much that I've learned that I'm just like, okay, this is who I am, and for better or worse. You know, when I've made a mistake, I made a mistake. I mean, I've had those conversations with those people we've mentioned before. You know, do I make mistakes? Sure. You know, am I going to make a mistake in the future? Sure. But
Absolutely.
I try to learn from those mistakes and not make the same mistakes.
We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to be human. We cannot judge others because we don't, we shouldn't be judging ourselves or others. We do the best that we can. The
Yep.
golden rule, right? Treat
And
others like
then
you want to be treated. Just
yep.
follow the golden rule, and I think we'll all be okay, regardless of
And learn
religion,
when you make a mistake.
background.
Yep.
Absolutely. Learn from it, because if not, what? You are destined to repeat it. If you do not
Exactly.
learn the lesson, you're going to repeat the mistakes, you know? So we're here to grow. I always say we're here to grow our souls, right? We're here to learn and grow our souls. So then we finally make it to the other side. God can say, okay, you checked off the assignment. All right.
Well, that's it.
Time
That's
to check
exactly
off.
right. You know, the universe will keep telling you a story and tell you who you are. If you don't want to hear it and you want to resist it, then that's fine. And I've been tired about resisting it. I mean, that's why we talked, I think, in the green room about my teals. So you know, I have that
I
teal
love,
suit and stuff like
yes,
that. It really is all about a grounding color. Is not only am I
absolutely.
grounded, but it's also about the power that we come from knowing who I am. You know, years ago, I would have never wore a green suit that you could have all saw me and stood out in any crowd. And now I'm just like, hey, that's who I am. I love wearing my green suits. I have 3 green suits now.
Right.
But I love it because that's who I am. You know, that's part of who I am, not in a Superman suit that I'm but it makes me feel proud that I could do that and not feel I don't worry about it. At that speaker competition, you remember we were at the hotel. It was right across the street from Sesame Place.
Right.
And that morning, I'm walking out in my green suit, and everybody's there with families. So I was definitely the odd man out, and I felt comfortable. I was like, great. I don't care. They're looking at me. It's not about looking about me. It's asking me about my message, which is one of the things. Your son came over to me during I don't remember if it was that event
My
or
book launch. No, not that one. My
okay, it was a
book
book launch.
launch.
Yeah, I remember he came over. Well, why do you wear your green suit? And we had a great. I mean, every time I've met him since, we've had great conversations. But you know, that was really amazing that he came over and had that conversation. You know, as a young adult, I don't know that I would have done that, but he felt comfortable, which is
Yeah, he's
you
only
know,
12 years old. He had just
yeah,
turned 12. He
right.
just turning 12. He wasn't even 12 yet.
Right, which is a
But yeah,
testament to you and Sal. You know, really that he felt comfortable enough in his own skin to then ask me, like, why do you? We had a whole conversation about my green suit, and I don't know how he took it, but he's always come over to me and shook my hand afterwards. So I think it went
yeah,
well.
he told me the guy in the suit. He's always talking about the guy in the suit, and I know exactly. Well, my other son will say the guy with the bat, right? So
Right.
there's two things that identify you. It's the color
Sure.
of your
Yep.
suit and your bat. And each one of them picks something different about you, right?
Mhm.
As that. And that spoke to them,
Yep.
right? That speaks to them. My little guy happens to be more sensitive, more intuitive, so he'll pick up on those kind of things. And the other one is just fascinated with people that can fight. He's older. He's 22 years old.
Yeah.
So, that stuff attracts him. So it was fantastic that people, they're drawn to you. People are drawn to us for whatever reason. I happen to wear blue a lot. I'm not wearing it today, but I wear blue a lot. Always has been my favorite color. It's the color of the chakra of communication.
Mhm.
I feel comfortable when I wear it. Exactly like you're saying, it gives you it gives you this energetic comfort level that regardless if you want to come up and talk to me, that I feel comfortable doing that and being in my own skin. Same thing.
Yeah.
Right. I just feel comfortable. I'm fine. We know who we are. We're not going to fight who we are anymore. So a lot of people that are seeing what I'm doing today are puzzled by this, right? I'm not somebody who gets up in front of people. I'm not out there social media and doing all these things, and I'm doing that now. So I'm sure it's confusing to others, but it is something that I feel guided that I need to do. And either you go on with me on the ride and support me, or I'm going to love you from afar.
And that's it. And that's where a lot of people are like, oh, you're always out there and this and that. I'm like, look, I'm just
Yeah.
telling you what's going on. I don't think I'm any greater than anybody else.
Nope. Has nothing to
I'm
do
a
with
work
that.
in
It
progress,
truly has nothing to do with that.
but it's taken me a damn long time to, get to where I'm comfortable with myself. There's things I don't like and I'm working on that. But other than that, I'm happy with who I am. I'm proud of the books. I mean, that's why when they look at the book, like the first book, there's still some editing that could have been done differently. But I said every page is a piece of me. You want to get to know me, you get the book. Any of these other books that are coming out, and really within the next 3 weeks, between a comic book, a book coming out July 10th, which I wrote in about 6 weeks, it was a storybook, and it's all about me. And I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it to make $1 million. I'm doing it because it's made me happy and it's not hurting anybody. And I think that's the real key for all of us, is to find the one thing that makes us happy. And we could all do something to help others and to be part of others helping.
Right.
But
Right.
it's all important
And to
also.
sharing. It's the whole sharing. So you've been through a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
I've heard you speak about many different things. You shared two things with us today about wanting to take your own life, losing your girlfriend tragically the way that you did, and you've been able to move through life, right? And so you share with that. Once you get to that other side of, hey, I was able to navigate this challenge and get to the other side, we have a desire to share that with others so that they don't have to struggle like we did.
Sure.
Like when we went through things. And at the base of it all, that's what we're really trying to do. We're not trying to show ourselves or anything like that. We're truly trying to help move things forward for other people because we needed that, right? When I was going through things, I couldn't bring myself to go to a support group or anything like that. So I went through books. I read a lot of books, self-help books about grief and navigating all those things in order to help myself, which is why I chose a book as the vehicle for me to share. Right. So now there is a story that I heard the day an ultimate speaker, and I don't want us not, to go through this interview with not talking about Kevin. So
Sure, yeah.
let's talk about that point in your life, because I think there's an important message with that one.
Well, there's a few messages. So Kevin was my best friend. So I knew him for 35 years. And the story was he died unexpectedly. And that's something that I want everybody to make sure they know. Every time you pass a cemetery, there are dreams that never were fulfilled. So one of the dreams that Kevin had that wasn't fulfilled, this is his passport. When he passed away, he died unexpectedly. He had no brothers or sisters. He left his mom, and you make promises to people. Again, 35 years. He was at my family events, and I said I'd always take care of his mom. They were part of my family, and we didn't know that he wasn't that sick. He had high blood pressure. That was the only thing that medically was wrong with him at that time. But at 55, that was it. He closed his eyes and didn't wake back up. And I had the police break into his house to identify, and I was the one who identified his body. And the story goes deeper in that was the start of my year. So where we were just talking about using your resources, all the things that you learn your growth. So not only did I have my best friend die unexpectedly, that I had to then figure out how to take care of his mom, because logistically their bank accounts were closed and this and that, right? Nobody could touch anything. So you got to stand up. You make a promise. And when I talk about promises, there are promises that we make to people and we don't intend on keeping them. When I make a promise, If I can't do it, I will tell you. If I say I will do it, I might not do it in the right time because of what happens, but I will always do it. So, but I had always spoken to Kevin and that I would help take care of his mom. And now he's dead. I don't have to. There's no legal obligation for me to do it. I could have walked away, but I
Right.
didn't. For the next 6 months, there was a woman who took care of it. There was a nurse, a medical professional who was already there, but she needed to get paid. So there was a lot of logistics part of that. And then she passed away. As while my mom was also on her journey out of it, which I mention it in my book. So in 1 year, I went through 3 major life deaths in my life. Besides my job, my career, and my children,
Right.
girls, and managing my own stuff, right? Just life in
Right.
general.
Right.
But what I will tell you is because I used my resources, I knew my resources, I was able to handle it. Was there times that I was frustrated? Sure. You acknowledge that. And that's really one of the lessons I learned from Kevin. And one of the other lessons I learned from Kevin is in the book is about perseverance. It's really about lifting yourself up and doing what you need to do, not because anybody else. Again, when we were talking about authenticity before, and that's really what the bat is about, bringing authenticity today.
Right.
It really is about perseverance. He was walking up, when I first got divorced, we were walking up a mountain in Yosemite National Park called Nevada Falls. It was just a short mountain, well, short distance wise, a lot in terms of altitude, because
Right.
almost 2,000 feet altitude. So it's a long walk. He wasn't physically fit. So we're walking and we're in the middle of everything. And I go, hey, Kev, if you can't do anymore, it's all good. I'll get to the top, take pictures. We can tell everybody you were there. No worries. And it was one of the first times he was really determined. And he was like, no, we're going to get to the top. I knew I could get to the top, no matter how struggling I do. And it took us longer than we expected.
Right.
Everybody's journey is different. We got to the top, and he smiled his ass off. I mean, there's no way to, there's a smile when you're laughing, but there's a smile when you're so proud of yourself for
Deep in your
accomplishing.
soul.
Yeah. And anytime I would mention Nevada Falls for the next years before he passed, he would crack out a smile because he knew he did something that, one, nobody expected him to do, like writing a
Right.
book, like getting on a stage, like doing all the things that you want to do, like we
Right.
all want to do. Think about what you want to do and find the ways to do it. Write the books. That's why I've changed my practice a little bit. I'll help you write your stages. To get on the stage, your signature speeches, because I think everybody, like you said, you had 2 big stories in your first book.
Right.
Everybody has so many different stories, but we don't recognize it because it happens to us.
Right.
When we go
Absolutely.
back
We have to, we all have, every day is another story. Every
Yep,
day of your life, there's another story. There's definitely stories everywhere. It's up to you to recognize them and know what the lesson is. We have to now be more conscious of figuring out the lessons that we're here to learn. Every single day, there is a lesson that I learn. Right.
100%.
And if you journal and you write them down, all of a sudden you got a book. Right. It's as
Yeah, it's those
simple as
little
that.
steps, little step becomes
Yeah.
a long journey, right? And that's so powerful.
Absolutely. Amen. So, David, I have your website scrolling underneath. If people want to get a hold of you and take advantage of your coaching and your teachings, they can go right there and get a hold of you.
Yeah, one get on my calendar. I give everybody 30 minutes for free. Like I'll
Oh,
teach them more
that's
about,
beautiful.
yeah, I give them more about the reset button. They want to talk more about reset button. And it's not a big hook on trying to get them to go on more. If you want to just walk away after 30 minutes, that's fine. We're still friends, no problem. But if you'd like to have more, there's more services I could provide. And really, the more that I'm doing, the more that I've been teaching. I've been teaching people how to do podcasts, because once you have your voice, once you know you have your voice, it's your responsibility to use your voice, to use it all the time, to do the thing, because you never know who's going to hear your message. That's where
That's
with
right.
my podcast, I never know who's listening to it. But every now and then someone's like, I heard last week's episode. That was a great guest you have. And wow, I learned so much.
Right.
And that's, you never know who needs to hear it.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's very important. That's why I started this podcast as well. I said I wanted to be able to share not just my story, but everybody else's and encourage people to join the registry, which we'll hear at the end here. But before we go, thank you so much for coming on my show once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
And how do you, this is the question I ask all my guests, and it's how do you define success?
You know, there's a lot of different ways. So one way is just, am I happy at the end of the day? You know, success doesn't mean money. And, you know, if the only thing you have in your life is money, I feel sorry for you.
That's right.
But the success is, are you doing it the way that you want to do it? So again, that with the podcast, it's called Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. And people are like, oh man, that's just crazy. And once they understand the philosophy behind it, which is one of the new books coming out by September, is, you know, it really is, success is exactly hitting your sweet spot. Is once you hit your sweet spot, you're going to hit it as best as you can. And that's what everybody should do, is hit it as best as you can. Find what your sweet spot is, hit your sweet spot, and keep doing it. And if you miss it just a little bit, next time you're going to hit it better. Just keep
do it
working
again.
towards it.
Just
Yep.
keep swinging. Keep
That's
swinging.
it.
I love that message. Thank you so much. And for my viewers, I will see you next time.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gabrielle Morales, and I am a recruitment coordinator for Be The Match. My journey with Be The Match actually began when I was only 9 years old. At that point, my 7-month-old baby sister was diagnosed with an extremely rare form of leukemia. Through the Be The Match registry, we were able to find a matching donor for my sister. And although a few months later, we lost her, her cancer was cured. Our family is so thankful for the additional months that we had with my sister. And ever since then, I've made a promise to myself to dedicate my life to helping children just like Isabella and helping families like ours by continuing her legacy. Hence why I now work for Be The Match. I love what I do so much, and I'm able to spread awareness about the huge need for more donors on the registry, especially those of diverse backgrounds. There is currently a huge disparity within the registry for minority patients, and we need your help. It is so simple to save a life and to be put on the registry. You can visit izzy'slegacy.com or text Izzy's Legacy to the number 61474 to start the registration process to be on the Be The Match registry, to hopefully be a life-saving match for a searching patient in need.